Right, so welcome to the Monday's edition of Good Morning Africa. My name is Kwame Owusu. So thank you to the 6 a.m. news team for bringing us the news. Thank you to Ivan Amakiza for bringing us the news headlines. And also to our international partners for sharing with us what is happening across the world. Now is the time for us to discuss some pertinent issues concerning Africa and, well, some parts of Africa and Ghana as well. So we're taking you all the way to East Africa. Well, I don't know whether Congo is in East Africa or Central Africa. I always get confused with that because it's closer to Rwanda. So anyway, so Central Africa. And share with you what is currently happening. I'm sure Kambali will be very excited about this topic. Yeah, because, given the fact that he's very passionate about his country, Congo. But of course, all of us should be.
It's not from
Congo. Kambali?
It's from DR Congo.
What's the difference?
The difference is that there are two different countries.
Oh, wait.
But I thought now it's
No.
Wait.
The former Zaire
Zaire.
is Congo DR. Congo DR.
Brazzaville.
That's where Kambali comes from. Then Brazzaville is Congo.
So
both of them share the Congo River.
Absolutely. Okay.
It demarcates.
So what?
It demarcates the two.
So wait.
One was Belgian.
Yeah.
The other was French.
Which one was the Belgian? That's DR.
Congo DR.
Okay.
Lumumba.
Lumumba. Okay. All right. Okay.
They were French.
So this is
French rule.
Wait. So who is the current?
DR was Belgium.
Belgium.
But you know Belgium too, they speak French.
French, yeah, they speak French.
So
Yeah.
Tshisekedi is for where?
Congo DR.
Congo DR.
Yes.
Okay. I get it now. Okay. So that's Kambali's country.
Yeah, that's Kambali's
okay, I see. All right. Well, okay. Polls open in Congo's presidential election. U.S. war games in Ghana, and that has been captured on the front page of the Inside newspaper. SFG is blasting. I don't know why they didn't add that. And I'm happy that, oh, please, gentlemen, respectfully, include children's rights in schools, governing code. I have a different opinion, and I know that people are not going to be happy about my opinion in respect of that particular issue, but I'll still put it out. Akufo-Addo replies critics over Domilevo's retirement. The Ghanaian Times, in fact, not just Domilevo's retirement, but also has indicated that the CSOs are hypocritical or are being hypocritical when they seek to suggest that it was unlawful the way and manner Domilevo was handled. We will delve into all of those issues. I'm not sure that there are other issues that we've left out. One other issue which I believe is also of great concern has got to do with the the taxes and things like that. Maybe we'll get the opportunity to touch on that briefly, because I don't think that we've had the opportunity of touching on that particular issue. I think it became rife on Wednesday last week sometime. So, yeah. Okay, so we'll touch on these issues here on the show. Be sure to join in the conversation with your messages via our Facebook page, which is Pan-African Television, and also on WhatsApp, which is currently displayed on your screens at this very morning. So please kindly join in the conversation with all your views, your comments, whatnot. We will share it with the rest of the world. Good morning to you, Mr. Justice Akufo-Addo, for your time, and thank you very much. Thank you for always making time to join us. Mujib, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And I trust you're doing well.
I'm okay.
Oh, now look into my eyes more.
Why? Oh, Kwame, I had to say.
Any form of altercation.
Oh, no.
Or some conflagration. They say that when somebody wants to hide the truth from you, they don't always look into your eyes. They have been evasive.
No, say we'll
be like this.
A weekend will be less more.
We'll be like this.
I'm around. I'm around. So how are things going?
Well, we are managing. Under the Akufo-Addo administration, you cannot predict. So
what can't you predict?
Delali Sawakwo is also here. Good morning to you, Delali.
Good morning, Kwame.
Small boy danger. I trust you're doing well.
I'm doing well.
Right. So these are the topics. These are my panelists. We zoom into action now. Polls open in Congo's presidential election. Mr. Heneku, respectfully, let me start with you on that one.
Okay. Good morning to Delali and Mujib. Good morning to the cherished viewers of Pan-Africa and to all CPP supporters out there. Let's keep the hope up. We're still around.
Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of your members.
Yes.
Who is actually an executive member.
Yeah.
And then he was decrying the consistent demand for money from, the following of your party. And I was thinking, when he said that, I said, then how can you come to power if there's no oil of commitment left in the average, or in the normal average CPP follower to wrestle power from the duopoly? How do we? Because they are also asking for money, and where are you going to get the money from? You must necessarily.
Yeah, well,
is that a problem?
The problem of monetization of our politics is a fact. It affects all the political groupings in this country. But you agree with me that because the duopoly has been in charge, they've been able to take as much loot as possible from the state coffers to oil their electoral machinery. One problem we have in the CPP has to do with human resource, our cadre development. And I think we are minded to help develop our cadre, that it is your ideological commitment and your commitment to be able to organize to take power, which is more important than the little monies which will be paid to you. And we hope that we'll be able to move on. Nevertheless, let's go to the polls which opened in the Congo's presidential election. Congo, this is the Congo Brazza, which is borders Congo DR, as the Democratic Republic of Congo. Their leader is Owusu, and he has been in power for 30 years.
African madness.
Yes, he was in power for some time. Then he was overthrown, or he lost an election, and he led an army revolt to come back to power. And so these elections is just a charade. It's just window dressing to appease or create a make-believe for the Western powers, which bankroll it, that they are also democratic. It's a rich country. They have oil, and they've had oil for a long time. Right. It is in Central Africa. It's bordered by Gabon, Congo DR. It has got Congo, and a poor country. The family of Sassou Nguesso has created a fiefdom. It was a French colony. It was part of the French colonial colony in Central Africa. They were all one, just like the West African French colonies were also one. So independence in 1960, when it got divided, Gabon, Central African Republic, and others, and Cameroon, of course. And so I don't know. I don't think this elections there. It is simply to recrown him and re-enthrone him, for him to continue, like in Cameroon, like it was in Gabon, etc., etc. So probably God come and take him away. The democratic space is not very open in the Congo. One or two of their opposition leaders have either been killed or have been incarcerated. When they were on the verge, they seem to be very popular in recent that country. And I don't know, the dictatorship of Sassou Nguesso will continue, despite the window dressing of a sham election.
Right. Will you?
Yeah.
Yes, my boss.
I have not much to add than what my senior said. But when you go through the report, what is happening, like deploying military men onto the street, 37 years trying to still remain the president and become 40 years in the presidency. Kwame, I always ask, what do you have to offer again? But you see, that is the funny or the craft way of now making our progress retarded. let me generalize it, small Africa. Kwame, when you look at that part of the world, the Central Africa, Eastern, I think that maybe, I don't know, as compared to what we are experiencing in Africa, but I don't think that we are far ahead. But I can say we are a little ahead. For instance, you can use Cote d'Ivoire and other areas as an example. Well, Kwame, it is still not the best way that, like, I want to ask. Maybe the whites wanted us like the democratic dispensation. That is the way to guarantee the development and upholding the human rights principles in this part of in our part of the world. But Kwame, I think they have gotten it wrong. It is still like those days when we were growing in the 90s, early 90s, you hear of the coup d'etats taking over military, what. Kwame, I think that they wanted those things to stop so that a new face will be given. But actually, what is happening, I consider it is still the same thing. It's still the same thing, even though the names have changed, maybe from a military ruler to a democratic government by way of election. But critical look at what is happening there, I don't think that is what elections should be. But who will come to their aid? No, nobody. I don't think what the African group is doing. But Kwame, such leaders, I think, that will continue to perpetuate themselves in power. Well, for all you know, they have taken over the whole country, and now the military is loyal to them, the security, everything is loyal to them. Now, anybody comes to challenge them. So I was reading the story, and I think the main opposition leader or something is down with COVID or something like that. Will be due to be flown to France. Well, whether that is true, whether that is the real situation, we can't tell. I hope you are getting the argument. But Kwame, so to some extent, anyway, but that is their right, and it's a sovereign country. So whatever is happening, they have to. They are the real beneficiaries and the real strugglers of it, and they have to put their own house in order. But I think that when it comes to certain stage, that external interventions is very, very important. But Kwame, hearing some of these things, I don't think that we are still in that groove part. When I see some of these things happening, I am not a happy person at all. I would have wished and loved that at least we can have smooth elections. After all, what are you? You can't be there. Even if one day, if you are there forever, one day you die and leave the scene. Just like what were happening in Tanzania, even though he's duly elected and was just serving his term. But after death, it will come when it will come. So there's no way about there's two ways about it. But come anyway, that is it. So, right. And that maybe just like Mr. Heneku said, it's just a way of recrowning himself. But at least we don't expect anything different from what the elections.
Yeah, right. Delali.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Mr. Heneku.
You don't want military.
My big brother, Mujid. Kwame, you see, it's getting to a point where I think when the Tanzanian president passed on, exactly, and the what do you call Bobby Wine of Uganda, the opposition leader who just lost the election and took the matter to court, he actually updated it on his Facebook wall. That, I mean, he was trying to express a condolence to the good people of Tanzania. And when you read the commentary from the citizens of Uganda, and some of the commentary, in as much as it's funny, it's to me it's a bit worrying, to the extent that the citizens were like, "Oh God, we are so disappointed that you've decided to answer our prayer request in Tanzania," which means that they were basically praying for their president, that is Museveni, to rather be the one passing on rather than the Tanzanian president. See, if it has gotten to a point that people realize that it's impossible for us to change a democratic dictator, to the extent that we have to resort to God for God to do away with such an individual, that is quite a bit worrying. And I listened to Mr. Heneku, historical, submission relative to the current president of Congo. That in fact, I didn't know that he has been He has been what you call a leader for almost about 37 years. And to the extent that he lost an election and came back through a coup d'etat. And I keep on saying that I think he has gotten to a point in time, the African Union. I think they are not living up to the expectation. I think they are not really leading when it comes to the African continent. Because for anybody at all to have lost an election and yet came back, staged a coup, and we entertain him as a leader of a country, then what kind of signal are we sending out there? And I'm not surprised. You know, the Western powers, I keep on saying, it has never been about deepening democracy within the African continent. It's about interest. Because these same people who give recognition to the current Congo president who came to power through the barrel of a gun, you'll be surprised that this same group of people are somewhere in other parts of African countries trying to create an impression that even a democratically elected government is abusing people's human rights. But yet, these are the same group of people. For all you know, his coming back to power through the barrel of a gun, through staging a coup d'etat, was not something that was done by him as an individual. He had the tacit support from some of the Western powers. So, the question is this. We are unable to know what is really the Western power, what is really the agenda when it comes to Africa. In one breath, they keep on touting about their democratic credential, the fact that, oh, we believe in democracy, the fact that we think that Africa should deepen its democratic, what we call its credentials and what have you. And this same group of people continue to hide behind certain individuals to stage a coup in other African countries because of the resources. When Mr. Heneku was talking about the resources that is in Congo, talking about all these minerals and what have you. So I think that the African Union, if they want us to take them serious, they should be up and doing. I mean, it should not become just an institution where they meet, elect a leader, and it just become a white elephant. It just should not just become an institution that becomes more or less like coming in together of what we call head of state within the African continent, who are just there for their own selfish interest, who are just there to protect their own regime, to protect their own life. That should not be it. Because the moment we continue to do that, and that is the reason why, more often than not, the Western powers have to come in and solve basic problems confronting the African country. I mean, to me, that is uncalled for. Because reading about all this, then how on earth can an individual be a head of state of a country, lose an election, come back, and be there for 37 good years? What has changed? What has really changed when it comes to Congo as a country? We've been seeing in what they call it, the precarious situation in that particular country. What has really changed? Is it an individual who is only the repository of wisdom, who only have the magic touch when it comes to developing a country? So I believe that for me, the African Union, the ECOWAS, all the what do you call it, all the African organizations who are established to ensure that human rights are being protected, to ensure that nobody, takes the people's right for granted, to ensure that democracy is being deepened within the African country. They should be up and doing. If not, a time will come, like Mr. Heneku alluded to. We are even in a worse state than even when we are during the military dictatorship era. Because what is currently happening within the African country is just like a military dictators who seem to be practicing democracy, but in reality, they are worse than even the military regime that we've experienced in the past. Because when you read what has happened relative to the election, the way social media or internet was shut down is not different from what happened in Uganda. The fact that the opposition, almost about 6 of them or 7 of them, the fact that they were not even allowed to campaign, they were not even allowed to have access to certain what they call state media and what have you. It's not different from what happened during military dictatorship. And I think the African Union, like I said, should be up and doing. And that is the only way we are going to salvage the African as a continent.
Unfortunately, maybe Mr. Heneku would help us define the core mandate of the African Union, because it appears that they are working in their own shadow. We don't seem to see what they're doing, really. What gave birth to the African Union?
Well, what gave birth to the African unity is the quest for Africans to free themselves from colonialism and, of course, racism and all those kind of things. The Organization of African Unity was created in 1963. Of course, some of the founders, like Nkrumah, thought that Africa should come together and create one country. Of course, probably on a federal system, like the United States of America or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which are 16 republics with their own constitution, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, some of them didn't think so. And so the compromise was the Organization of African Unity. But see, the foundation for the Organization of African Unity was non-interference in the affairs of each other's country and respect for the colonial boundaries. Other than that, they thought that there was going to be wars and all those kind of things. Because, you know, the colonial boundaries had radically changed the shape of the countries which hitherto were in Africa. You see, the African history is not like, it's unlike in Europe. In Europe, up to about 10 years ago, boundaries were changing. You understand? The last time boundaries changed radically was after the Second World War.
Yeah.
But when Yugoslavia broke up, when Eastern Europe broke up, many new countries emerged.
Yeah.
You understand? We seem to have fossilized the colonial boundaries and the principle of non-interference in each other's affairs. So it constrains the continental body from actually interfering.
Because there's that misconception about the core mandate of African Union.
Yeah.
And this is very, very, I think it's a very important point that you put across. So that I think people, they are apprised with what they need to do. Because even me, I was confused up until now.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering. Because I know what Owusu and Kwame sought to put out in for instance, 1963.
Yeah.
You know, with that earth-shattering speech.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that element of that has been put into, you know, the current operations of African Union. But what you have told me now is very, very good.
You see, it's only when the security of the whole sub-region is endangered, even that one, they go to seek for our intervention, ECOMOG's intervention in Liberia, going to Sierra Leone because of the civil wars there. We sought the permission of the Security Council. What I think that should be done is that we should develop the African people's civil, civil CSOs.
Corporate social.
No.
How do they even call it?
Civil organizations.
Whatever. CSOs, yes.
CSO, so that we can civil society organize, so that we can open up the political space. Yeah. Because Mujib was asking, who should stop what is happening in Congo? It's the people of Congo. And if it's the people of Congo, it means the people of Congo must be organizing. The people in this country organized during the 1980s against the Rawlings regime. So in 1992, when we all agreed to have a constitution.
Don't you think it's as a result of the lack of trust that people have developed over the years for political parties and their leaders, right? So now people feel like, I won't go and die, because when another political party emerges, they are going to perhaps act like the previous political party. And so it's just that.
You see, you must root all organizations within the people. Look, I doubt whether in 2000 there would have been a change of government if in 1995 Kumi Preko had not happened. You understand? Putting up 100,000 people on the street against, and who didn't fear the Rawlings regime if you lived in this country in the 80s?
Yes.
But putting up that number of people there showed to the ruling regime that things can get out of hand. Is that happening in the Congo? Is that happening in Gabon? Is that happening? No, now there's another opposition party which is able to stand. I mean, when they voted for Habakumsin, within that opposition party, people say, why? People didn't just keep quiet. I'm sure the leadership of the NDC in parliament wanted the grassroots of the NDC people to shut up. But they said, no, if you play the buffoonery, in 4 years' time, we'll give you your comeuppance. You understand? So there's a certain reaction to any tendency which people don't want. You know, they might not achieve all that they want, but so the people who are ruling also think twice before they do certain things. But in the Congo, in DR Congo, they use tribalism, they use civil war, they use underdevelopment, lack of education, all to make sure that a small group rules on and on and on and on and on. And when by chance there's some election and they lose, then they will go and use the military, they will cause a civil war, and then they will come back to power. So it is up to those who are against them to start organizing amongst the people, amongst the problems the people have. You understand? Because Congo has got oil. It has had oil for a long time. But it's a backward country. Very underdeveloped. Apart from Brazzaville on the Congo River, it is all bush. Show you the mortality rate, the education rate and everything. Yeah, it's down there. And then you have this small elite who have crowned themselves into royalty, and they keep on ruling and misusing the funds of the people.
But you gave us the reasons. I mean, keep the people uneducated, keep the people impoverished, you know, and then you can rule forever.
Yeah, but the opposition too should fight back.
Mobutu strategy.
Yes,
I'm told it's an African issue.
Yeah.
That what the leaders do. For instance, you recall that it's as a result of all of these issues that gave birth to the African peer review mechanism. Which sought to, you know, deal with some of
the
these
peers in terms of good governance.
What's it called? Poverty alleviation and.
But it was based on voluntariness.
Yes.
It was, yes.
That still has to do with state sovereignty.
But you're not getting the point I'm making. The point I'm trying to establish out of this is that there's always that deliberate attempt to keep the people impoverished. It's deliberate.
So organize them.
Poor. Don't give them education. Because if you give them education and they become enlightened, you are dead. No, they will come at you.
No, but Kwame,
so keep the people there. No, so on election day, you go and give them 2 CD, 5 CD, and they are comfortable.
Of course.
You know, that's the point I'm trying to
ask.
Yes, sir.
Who peer review who? For instance, that's a big themselves. So imagine Nigeria is going to peer review Ghana on corruption. So you see, the point is, who peer review who? That is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the moral right to peer review a colleague of mine who is even doing worse, or even if I'm doing worse than that colleague of mine. How do I peer review him?
Yeah.
So we have set a standard, and that makes it impossible for another African head of state to peer review their own colleague. When they know for a fact that, listen, I'm even worse off.
They're in the same class.
They're in the same, exactly. Because if assuming I'm unable to provide water for my citizens, and now there's an issue table before us, or an African leader appear before us, we are supposed to review that African leader when it comes to provision of water for his citizen. How do I have that moral right to peer review that African head of state? So it's about the standard we have set for ourselves. Like you said, it's not mandatory. So unless we have certain strategies in place that this is what we intend to do as a continent, and that is why it comes to a point that I said, listen, must we not come back to the drawing board and appreciate the fact that maybe, you know, in terms of, in as much as we want to practice democracy, we must do it inconsistent with our values. How to extent do we drag in the traditional leaders when it comes to the kind of democracy that we practice in Africa? So it calls for a lot of revolution, paradigm shift. But if you want to be going about what exists in other jurisdictions, the Western powers and what have you. Mind you, these are people, they don't even go on campaign and say we are going to provide water, roads and what have you. Their policies are entirely different. So if you are not careful, we always want to go by their standard, by what they advise us to do.
Yeah, but you see, in that same vein,
Yeah.
one can safely assume that the kind of democratization that is being practiced in Africa has some semblance of its roots in culture, because then the cultural system of, for instance, the chieftaincy system, let's say, right? The chief, the subjects. So they find a way of always making sure that, you know, the subjects continue to pay taxes to them, and then they give them a pittance of it, right? You are talking about policies in the West, which operate such that the people feel that they are part of the system and they operate. The African person has been able to use that system, that so-called system of democracy, to say that, okay, well, we must change government, right? But the idea that underlies that system of democracy that we practice is deep-seated, you know, or gains its roots from our culture and our traditions and things like that. So they continue to stay in power. They tell you, well, that's our democracy. This is how, you know. So the democracy that they want to practice is that you are not supposed to even question them, for instance.
Yeah, but Kwame, you see,
yes, sir.
The truth of the matter is that I get a bit worried when we try to make it seem as if participation in decision making and electing
in democracy
is a preserve of a certain
yeah.
society. It is common to all humanities, only that it took different forms and different historical forms. Yes, they started elections in 1789 in the United States of America, but how many people were voting? Who were entitled to vote?
Yeah, yeah.
A whole section of the population were not allowed to even vote.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But over time,
absolutely,
because there was struggle, it changed. The nature of participation in decision making and electing people changed. Our problem with our chieftaincy system is that our chiefs participated in the slave trade. We don't like to talk about it, but that's a fact. They participated in the slave trade. When they were being overthrown, they connived with the white man and helped them in colonization, indirect rule.
So that they can keep them there.
You understand? And even during the struggle for independence, most of the chiefs were against it. Yeah. Because they felt their power, they were benefiting
from the status quo.
You understand? Go read Dr. Buzier's book, sociological book on corruption in the palace. Yeah. I won't mention which kingdom, but in the palace, he shows you clearly what was happening in the chief's palace as far as dispensation of justice was concerned. You understand? In 1960, we decided to be a republic. Chieftaincy is just a traditional relic. They can't be given real power. Because how many people take part in electing the chief?
Yeah.
What is the tenure of the chief? And even now, we are squabbling over who has got the true blue blood.
Lineage,
yes. And who has not. We are squabbling all over. In my traditional area, there's a huge fight over there. Yes, in the Kriapim, as to who should be the Kriapim. Yeah, there's a pretender and there's another one. I mean, they are all fighting.
Yeah. One is a pretender.
No, but clearly one will be a pretender.
Yes, one will be a pretender.
One will not be someone who is hailing from their.
But I'm not mentioning names, so don't worry. But
whichever one is.
Yeah, no, whichever you. I mean, however you look at it, one of them.
You understand?
It's not from the appropriate lineage.
Yeah, but it is. Even this one, both of them are from the same family, and they are fighting.
I see.
You understand? And there are so many of these things happening in all over our country. The most important thing is that how do we democratize our state system? How do we ensure that decision making, as many people as possible take part in decision making? how do we make sure that our elections, as many people as possible take part in it? We talked about the issue of monetization. Why is there monetization? Because of the poverty and penury in which people live. So people have come to the conclusion that, why don't I sell my vote? Yeah. He's not thinking like the elite guy who, in the, traditions of Montesquieu and all those kind of things, is talking about separation of powers. He's thinking about his daily life.
Yeah, but that was
but which is very important.
Yeah, no,
See, ideally, that is what the society is supposed to do.
Yeah.
I hope you are getting it. Failure, that is where we are. Yeah. That is the point.
But also, don't you think, because these exigencies existed at the time, before we gained independence, and even when we gained independence, but the people were still united with one voice to fight for a common purpose. That cannot be said for our current generation. Because all of these pre-existing conditions
it depends on the model of development in which people are putting up. The truth which is bitter, which we must talk about, that since 1982, especially when Margaret Thatcher and Reagan came to power, they changed the world order. So we had to adopt privatization. When we did the privatization, we didn't ensure that we transferred it to Ghanaian entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
We just left it like that. And so most of our factories in Tema and elsewhere, which will employ people, became moribund. They are there. They are not working.
Is it the divestiture, whatever?
Yeah, they are divestiture and all those kind of... Those who could take some for themselves, share with their friends, shared it. The ones who they couldn't take, they just left it because it wouldn't be bought. Because the Western companies simply needed your market. So why should they come and help you to industrialize so that they will come and compete with you? Then we started allowing all sorts of imports. So rice, which we used to produce a lot, especially in the northern region in the 70s.
I remember when I was growing up, I used to eat a lot of local rice.
Yes, paddy rice. Yeah. You understand? Now we are importing it. Chicken, which when you wanted to buy chicken, you go and look for Pomadze or Dako farms or Pom farms. Now we are importing it.
Eggs and things.
We're importing almost everything. You understand? And so once we're importing,
too fake.
Yes. Once we are importing, production at home goes down, and then you are still educating people. You are giving people free SHS, and when they come out, for work, do they have?
And Panapco is there. NAPCO.
But NAPCO is transitional. It is not a long-term work. Kwame, and NAPCO is not production. You see, if you don't produce, you can't create wealth.
You can't create wealth.
You can only create wealth if you produce. If you manufacture and sell, then that's real work. It is not the sell.
In the ordinary sense, is the same thing. The one who is producing,
go.
The one who is producing makes more money than the one who is ordinarily selling.
Yes.
So we must produce, and it's very, very, very important. But Kwame, what I am looking at is that I think that we are in a very difficult situation as a people. Whether the system now we have adopted is actually panacea to our underdevelopment, we can use it to develop ourselves. But completely, I have said no. Looking at what is happening now, the democracy, 4 years, you must recycle or whatever. I don't think, Mr. Ineku, that can take us to where we want to be. Like we want to be like the Singaporeans, the Malaysians, the South Koreans. No, Kwame, what is happening now? I think that getting there will just be a mirage. But what is happening is that we're all talking, let's be very sincere with ourselves. Kwame, what are basic human needs? The shelter,
let's just
the food, basic. Those are those 63 or how many years in that is what we are still grappling with. Kwame, why? If I know, maybe I've given, like, let me use the Europe model. 1 or 2 bedroom accommodation is not a problem for my kid.
Council house.
Maybe transport system is well positioned.
Oh, it is. It is.
My insurance is covered. A very better a fashionable health system, why do I steal?
Yeah.
Why do I steal? You see the point? But when you come here, you say, it is a total different. Kwame, somebody who has been in the health or teaching sector for the past 25 years is still struggling to put 2-bedroom accommodation for himself, the wife, and the 2 children.
In 2 bedrooms.
Kwame, so and society and society don't care. Leaders don't care.
It's a problem. It's a real challenge.
Kwame, I miss Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is one that's not just peculiar to.
You know, he will give it to us. In Africa, we are failing. We have failed. We have failed.
We could have done better.
Let's listen to.
We could have done better.
Just to pick it from where Mujit ended, let me read something to you. This is a headline. Education, it says, teacher who was 42 kilometers to class rewarded with a standing fan. And Education Ministry present vehicle to Free SHS ambassador. So you see, you see the kind of society that we are creating. A teacher walked 42 kilometers to school to impact knowledge into kids in a deprived community, and his only reward is a ceiling fan. And you give
not a silly one, a standing
fan, and you give car to a young guy. And you see, sometimes the question is, so all the teachers living in the rural communities, do you think what you have done is motivation enough? Please place priorities. And you see, we live in a society, like Mujit said, somebody has worked as a teacher for almost about 40 years, has imparted knowledge. He sat down, he watched television. If I'm not mistaken, some of the lawyers that we saw during the Supreme Court case, some of even the judges who sat on the bench, these are some of the people that these teachers have impacted in. And they watch them and looking at the level that they've gotten to, and they look around themselves. And their current state has nothing to commensurate with the knowledge that they've impacted into people. And so when you are doing that, you create a society, like Mujit said, that gives, it becomes more or less like an incentive for people to indulge in all sort of corrupt activities and what have you not.
You make it mandatory.
Exactly. For instance, see, Kwame, if you like, sometimes in this country, it looks like a lot of people basically sometimes focus on their political elite when it comes to corruption here and there, what have you. Go to some of this
public institutions, the CEO.
Exactly. You go to some of this middle class enclaves within the greater Accra, within Accra, and see the occupants of all this what do you call it, magnificent what they call mansions and what have you not. So the point is this, like you were talking about when you alluded to the Maslow theory. As we speak, whilst people are even thinking about how to actualize themselves in the order of the need, some people are even finding it difficult to achieve the basic need. That is even what to eat. People go to bed and they are even unable to guarantee what they'll be eating the next morning. While somebody is basically thinking about what kind of mansion do I have to buy? Somebody is even thinking, okay, I know how much it will cost me to buy even a mansion, but I'm even thinking about the location. Yeah. So you see, when you hear things like this, the question they ask themselves is this the same Ghana we all have a stake in? What is it that people are doing differently that we are not doing? Then they come to appreciate the fact that probably they are engaged in an activity, corruption and what have you not. So it becomes more or less like an incentive. And you see, that is what makes people become more or less like anti-Ghanaian. Because they don't see the reason why. In a country where we all have stake in it, where we've all attained a certain degree of education and what have you not. And yet, opportunities are limited to a certain group of people depending on who they know. Like I watched a video and a guy was just telling the madam that, listen, it's not about what you have, evidence on a piece of paper called certificate, but it's about who you know. And the teacher said, I disagree. On what basis is the child saying that? He said, listen, if it's about what you have or what you can demonstrate, then my brother wouldn't have been sitting in the house. So you see, we are building a society which is more or less like a ticking timing bomb. And the earlier we deal with it, the better it will be for all of us.
Yeah, but also our inability to deal, and I'm coming back to Mr. Heneku, our inability to deal with this issue, in my humble opinion, is the extreme partisanship that has created a certain crack of not being able to appreciate, from a very objective perspective, the issues that confront us. Because the material conditions of the people knows no bounds. Like, it doesn't know political parties. It doesn't know NDC, MPP. It is one, right? Which is what drove the Ghanaian people, for instance, to rally behind Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah's dream. Because it was a singular dream of wanting to bring independence to the people, which dream was sold to the people, which people bought that dream, right? But where we are now, it is impossible, practically so, to rally anybody behind any objective, progressive idea that will, get all of us out of the shackles of economic labyrinth, for instance. We are all, in a pool of confusion. And politicians are continuously taking advantage of our inability to decipher politics from reality.
I do agree with you. We're all in this whirlpool of confusion. Don't let us make a mistake. Not everybody rallied around Kwame Nkrumah.
I definitely agree with you.
No, but it's a nutshell. You can't get everybody.
I'm coming.
The net effect of that. The net effect of that idea.
You can't get everybody 100%.
The reason I'm saying this is because you may have some people who belong to, for example, the UP tradition, who were in complete opposition.
I didn't want to get to that. What I wanted to talk about was the fact that we have a ruling elite. And that ruling elite, of course, is not one. It's divided. When we are talking of corruption, since the 1990s, there have been cases of corruption amongst the political elite. Apart from Selomi and Aten Abu Dhabi, Pepra, who has been jailed on either side of the political divide? Nobody. Manda Musa, they just trapped him with
Abu Gapele.
Well, I mean, look, Abu Gapele was just an MP. He was not even a minister. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that, okay,
let's grant that.
Look at the number of high-profile people in the elite, not only ministers, even in the public service at the very top. This your procurement chap who has so much money in the bank, what's happening to him? you understand? So sometimes
he was not your procurement.
So sometimes it goes even beyond partisanship. It is just an elitist thing, and like Delali said, we only see the high-profile ones. Most of the people who steal in this country are in the top echelons of the public service. Look, this weekend I was saddled with ringing friends about somebody, a master's holder in public health, who has passed all his exams and everything in the military. When he goes for medical checkup, his name is not on the list. His name has been dropped. And I had to ring this person, I had to ring that person, go and see this person, and all those kind of things. Why? If you didn't want to take him, don't take him. Even in the military, in this country. Why? So you see that the system that we are using itself has become problematic. As for the political people, they are the high-profile ones. So we mention their names because it's easy to remember their names. What about the hidden ones? And it's not only in the public service, it's also in the private sector. We'll be tied if you have a daughter who has finished university, has even finished masters. Everywhere she goes to look for a job, they want to sleep with her. In this country, in the private sector, in the public sector. Why? Either you must have a party card or they would like to sleep with you. Even if you have a party card, you must have a godfather somewhere who should talk for you. So like the lady said, one day it will give. And when it gives, and we are not lucky, and an adventurer comes in, we will just massacre ourselves or create confusion amongst ourselves. I'm always hopeful for this country. I think independence has brought some changes in this country, because if you read the history books and you knew the kind of way our people lived, 90% of them were fishermen and farmers. And how far we have come to. We could have gone further. And so independence has been good to us. But have we been good to ourselves? Have we been truthful to ourselves?
You know, and I know we're focused on this because it's very crucial. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's a fundamental problem. And you know the issue, Muji, with the greatest of respect, we know about this. We know. It's not like we don't know. We know what the problems are. But we are failing to address those problems. Because of what? Because of parochial interest. Which is why I believe that we are sacrificing all of these developments and all of, all the attendant things that we can benefit from proper governance on the altar of partisanship, extreme partisanship. I mean, partisanship is not bad, but the extremity with which we practice same is always problematic. And that is what currently is characterizing our political, discourse. Now, on the basis of this, with the grace of respect, I'm asking you this, on the basis of how do we, and I know every time I ask this question, how do we, because I believe that we must begin to reorient and realign the thinking of the average Ghanaian, right, to bring them up to speed with the reality, because otherwise, we are doomed for life. And that's not what, these are the things that we don't want to hear. But the reality is the reality is that every year we churn out how many students from the universities, about over 200,000 people from the various universities. This is public, minus the private institutions, minus the tertiary, minus the polytechnics, how do they call them? Technical universities, minus the nurses, minus, so you are talking about 1 million.
How
close to 1 million.
Give them the jobs?
How many get, in fact, sometimes when you say this, no, but I mean, once you come out from the university, you are supposed to be creative and you get jobs to do. Okay, no problem, I want to be creative, right? But does the system allow me to be creative enough? I know of somebody who does sobolo, right? Beautifully packaged sobolo, beautifully packaged, beautiful enough.
The content is nice,
beautiful. I'm telling you. But the system is such that we've not even created a better marketing system so that the person can actually say, okay, I'm not going to look for a government job. I'm going to sit at home, do my sobolo, package it nicely, and this is what I'm talking about, Mr. Eneku's daughter. And sell it and make an income without necessarily going to.
Not giving of access to cheap capital.
Cheap capital. We don't get that. So, I mean, how do we surmount?
Even when there's COVID outbreak and there's the stimulus package, selectively, the people that they give it to them are people who have certain political
interest. I'm staying with you, sir.
Kwame, you see, I'm confused because ideally, you see, it's a build-up. It's the build-up. Kwame, when people begin to say, okay, I am in control, let me be in control, let me see myself as one, let me see myself as this, Mr. Enoku is not part. This is built up to now what we have, the winner takes all. And that winner takes all is serious. And everybody has been talking about the winner takes all, like in our political dispensation. Kwame, that is why people had to fight. People had to do all manner of things to get political power. You ask yourself, why? You are coming to serve the people. Kwame, why do you fight and kill to come and serve the people? If indeed you want to come and serve the people. Isn't it that there's more to that? There's more to that. You want to come and steal the people. You are not coming to come and serve the people. That is what we are getting. Other than that, Kwame, if it's about genuinely serving the people of Ghana, if you are A party or B party and you are very good in this area, the system will produce you to in a position that you'll be able to contribute and help the system grow. Kwame, in other democracies, we have seen both opposition and working together for the interests of the nation. A typical example is America. I hope you are getting the argument. But here, the story is different. Well, Kwame, that is even not my problem. Take all the power. They are champion low-cost houses. How it has helped people. At who built Senate? It is under Rollins, eh?
Yeah.
Across the country. Kwame, go to the Senate houses and see the caliber of people that are staying there and the number of people the Senate houses house in this country. So I sometimes ask myself, so without these Senate houses, all these average low-income workers, so where would that have been lodged?
The conceptualization was brilliant.
Yes.
The hatching of the idea was brilliant.
Yes.
But there was no sustainability plan. Now explain why. Look, I think that, like Mr. Hedeku said, NAPCO is, you described NAPCO as something. You said
It's a transitional, yeah.
those state buildings should have been a transitional building.
Yes.
Or transitional buildings.
Yes.
For young graduates, for instance, for young graduates,
Yes.
for young people who are now starting out life.
Exactly, yeah.
So that it will be phased out.
Yeah.
Once you start,
but you know, as you
some state house,
yes,
that is affordable.
two-bedroom is affordable. You can start with
Absolutely.
that. As you graduate, you yourself at a point yourself will even move.
So
those who can't move will be there.
So what happened?
Kwame, I assemble.
There's no more man speaking to you.
No. Ewala man.
Ewala man is speaking to you.
I assemble, Kwame. So sometimes you travel around this country,
Yeah.
Kwame, the poverty.
Yeah.
It's
serious.
portrait,
It's
carrying charcoal
It's
for your
serious.
wood, walking distances. Kwame, let's Kwame. In conclusion, let the leaders also try to change the taste. Kwame, all other aspect of our problem is the taste. You go and buy shirt, you say, oh, this is not quality. You want the European, you want the Italian shirt, you want the Italian shoe. What happened to made in Ghana? What happened to the smoke that Kwame Nkrumah used to wear? The smoke that Rollins used to wear, the smoke that Nanado is wearing. What happened? Let's try to domesticate. Who is that party? Domestication. It's very, very important. It is also another important aspect that we can lift ourselves from where we are. This. So
I think that
when we don't change our taste, now people are producing here. The small things that we are producing here, we are not patronizing them.
You know,
but today you go to the market, the local rice is there, the foreign rice is there.
oh, people,
And the people are going for the local for the foreign rice.
But Mujib, sometimes economics.
Demand and supply.
The not
Pricing,
only
right?
The pricing.
Yeah.
The pricing of
The push and
chicken
pull factors, yeah.
from outside, of rice from outside. I agree with you that at a certain time there was a branding.
I mean,
at a certain time when we were not getting Uncle Ben's rice,
You remember the dump
we're complaining. When we're not getting Exeter corned beef, but we're getting Volta corned beef, we're complaining. But look, let's also look at the pricing. The West or Western companies and everything have dumped their goods. Sorry to cut in here, but you see, our ruling elite should have recognized the fact that in the West, the ruling elite, they exploit their own people and then give them just enough for them to be working for them. So they build council houses. By the time you are 80 years old, you are moving from your parents' house into a council flat. So the pressure on your parents to steal is not there.
This system should
Yes. So why did we stop it? Why do we now build very posh houses where the mortgage is such that you have to steal money in order to be able to pay the mortgage? All those beautiful houses we have in Ghana now.
Segelemi and all those.
How are people able to pay for the mortgage? Where do they get the extra money
How much
from?
is a salary?
And why did we stop this mass housing, which is also a driver of economic development?
Yeah.
Because you need cement,
Yeah.
you need laborers,
Yeah.
you need masons, you need sand, you need water, and it's all human labor which will provide that. And money will go into people's pocket. Now we build beautiful houses, and it's only a very few people who can patronize it.
Right. So, Denali, finally with you. Finally with you. With a great respect, finally with you. I think that I'm excited about this conversation this morning. Really excited. But somebody would, in the final analysis, attribute all of these things that we have tabled here today as arising from our inability to have a development plan that will chart that part of growth that we're seeking to have. So we are directionless, they say, right? There's no direction. We don't know where we are headed. We don't even know where we are now to start with. You know, because as a human being, you should know how you started, where you are now, and your projections, right? We don't even know where we are.
Kwame, I think as a country, we delight so much in sloganeerism than having a policy document that will basically detail how we want to develop this country. Remember at a point we have Vision 2020, which was changed to poverty reduction strategy.
Yeah.
So you see, it's about changing of name. That is what we excite ourselves with as a country. And you see, Mujid says something to me that is quite striking. I mean, here you are. You have a young guy who just secured a job in Accra. And that young guy have to be looking for an accommodation.
Yeah.
And now, in our constitution, or I think in the rent control, there's a law, right? Mm-hmm. What does that law say?
Oh, 6 months.
Very good. Have we been able to enforce
they don't mind you.
Go to the rent control to this morning and go and see the number of cases that have been adjudicated upon. Cases that under normal circumstances, looking even at the facts, on the faces of the facts, that is before the adjudicating body, and they would have just go ahead and just make a ruling that, listen, you are supposed to take 6 months. You are demanding for 2 years. And this is just something that is there for anybody. But yet, we allow these things to linger on. So how does a young guy who have just relocated from the northern part of the country, or Volta region anywhere, to Accra, who have secured a job, how do you expect that young guy to survive? How do you expect that young guy to survive? And you see, our supporting system as a country is not working. Because you have an instance of somebody who wakes up in Kasua, going to office at somewhere around Tema, have to basically rely on public transport. So even, you see, before you make things comfortable for your citizens, certain structures must be working. When you're talking about transportation system, our road network, the railway, what have you not, and stuff like that. When you go to Odona here, do you know how many people could have moved from Circle to even probably somewhere around the Kolebu and what have you, even using the Odona River, if it was a source of what they call means of transportation? So you see, we are people who always engage in rhetoric. We see, even if you've not been in abroad before, some of our leaders, they've not even traveled to abroad. They've been watching television. They've been seeing it, what is happening in other parts of the world and what have you. But the problem is, politicians must be blamed. The citizens themselves too must be blamed. Because when you have a citizen who will vote for a political party because of slogans than the deliverables, when you have even an instances where we even have a problem I call the intellectual dishonesty. Kwame, do you know there was a time I met a medical doctor and he told me to a face that we are not going to eat road. And this same medical doctor knows for a fact that a lot of people have lost their life because they were trapped in the traffic. You have an instances where educationists will try to rubbish the relevance of putting up educational infrastructure because there's a free education. And I ask myself, imagine there's a policy that has been rolled out, free education, and yet there's no commensurate infrastructure. How do you implement this? So I think that it doesn't matter which of the political divide we belong to, because I have maintained this, that, listen, Kwame, pollution, they say, is localized, but the effect is global. Today, we are thinking about a lot of young kids are walking on the street. We don't care because we're living in Trasaco, Reggie Manuel, and what have you not.
Very soon. Okay.
When these people very soon become armed robbers, they will not be going to my villages and what I'll be looking for. They'll be going for the rich people. They can meet you in the traffic. There are instances, Kwame, people who are littering around Circle. Once upon a time, they say, we don't live here. We are not residents at Circle. So when there's flooding and what have you, we will not be a victim. Go and take an inventory of people who lost their life on that fateful day, whether they are people who are residents at Circle. So it doesn't really matter which of the status you find yourself when it comes to the economic ladder or the political what have you and what have you. We must begin to speak as Ghanaians and know that power is transient. Because once upon a time, Mujid was in opposition. Is that not it? Mm-hmm. Today, Mujid is still in power, in as much as I believe strongly that the election was not won. You know, it was not free and fair, what have you not. The time will come, like Honorable K. Japan said. He said, listen, some of the things that his own political party are doing relative to the closure of radio goods and what have you not, he will be one of the targets should the NPP lose political power. So it's more or less about musical chairs. Today, we don't care. When this man, what's the name, Honorable Jojanda, he had a serious accident at Liberia camp.
Yeah, I remember.
That day, he was airlifted from Liberia camp to Kolebu. But meanwhile, there's a medical facility there. Because at that point in time, they thought that, okay, owing to the nature of his condition, the condition is so critical that they have to convey him to Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Imagine it has happened somewhere in the hinterland. That they don't even have access to what we call a means of communication to communicate to all these emergency services and what have you. So, as a politician, you could be whoever you are. What is important is this. Whatever that affects the ordinary Ghanaian
Must affect you.
must affect you.
Yeah.
And that is the way we'll be able to develop this country. And we must, sometimes, in as much as we can be so partisan, sometimes let's elevate the interest of this country above partisanship. In concluding, Kwame, for instance, when you look at somebody like, for instance, this issue about corruption, when we are talking about it, and sometimes what is so hurting is this: Muji might not even be the direct beneficiary of a corrupt activity that has been engaged by a minister and what have you not. But sometimes we are tempted to defend because the person comes from our own political party. Meanwhile, a brother or a sister who just need, let's say, 2,000 Ghana cedis to start business, to start something that will metamorphose into something big, is being deprived of that capital because an individual have decided to become so selfish, so individualistic to extent he's not thinking about anybody but except himself. So, like Muji said, you have an instances, ministers who have even their own houses are chasing affordable houses.
Yeah.
Greedy. Chasing affordable houses.
Yeah, I know. But even the affordable houses, they are not affordable.
And sometimes you'll be surprised that they are not, it's not for themselves. They are giving it to their mistresses and what have you.
Yeah, I know.
And you see, we
hear all these stories.
We cannot have a country that we all envisage, that it will become a country that people will aspire to visit. A country that is, is endowed with a lot of resources.
Do you know what I think? I think that all these current, the leaders that we have now are very backward. Extremely backward. And they still hold on to this regrettable idea that things can only be better because we feel that our structures are the ones that are supposed to work to make the system better.
Fantastic. And
I don't want to mention, but look at our educational system. For instance, the legal education in this country. That, that's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
So, that's how, So the system was, what somebody told me? This person is very close, and you know the person. He said, why would somebody die for this nation when the system has not died for the person? That's what the person said. So the person says, you feel like you don't owe anything. You like, the country has not treated you fairly. The system has not treated you fairly. So when you are able to struggle and, meander your way through and you succeed, you don't owe anything to the nation because the nation has not treated you fairly. That is the reality, Mr. Eneku. Yeah. Finally.
Yeah, well, I believe that it is we who make the society work for us. Nobody is going to make the society work for us. It's unfortunate that along the way things have not pan out well for us. And even partisanship can be used to develop yourself and let it have a ripple effect on the people, on the larger society, in order to secure yourself in power. But if you take it all, like Nancy took it all and he forgot one when he was climbing the tree, it breaks, and you alone can't have it. I believe that we could do better. I believe that there's hope. I believe that we should let a certain bias for being love of nation, being nationalistic. And being nationalistic shouldn't be only exhibited when we are watching the Black Stars. Being nationalistic means that when you are signing an agreement or when you are making policy as to whether we should import yoyi, blackberries, or we should rely on Ghanaian grown yoyi, you do it in favor of Ghanaian grown yoyi. You understand? We should be Ghanaian first. We should be pro-Ghanaian. And being pro-Ghanaian means that you are for the society, the Ghanaian society. And that's the only way we can move forward.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Eneku. Well, It's been a very insightful conversation this morning on the show. Please, you can share with us what your thoughts are via our WhatsApp number, which is displayed on your screens now. We're also streaming live on Facebook. There's one other thing I wanted to say before we move on to the next topic, because SFG is clearly not happy with what is currently happening. U.S. war games in Ghana, wanting to train on our sea and all of those things. I don't think it's something that we must encourage, particularly when we do know that all of these so-called Islamist, people, how do they even call them? These groups, yes, have the tendency, extremists have the tendency of attacking countries that appear to be in bed with the West. We need to tread cautiously and make sure that we act in ways that will not put the nation into bigger risks. But finally, I just wanted to say that perhaps maybe we need to also look at the situation where after elections, we find a way of uniting the nation for the forward march of the nation, because it appears that immediately after every election, you find followers of political parties storming offices and sacking people from there and then bringing their people in and all of that. I think that those things also do not augur well for the cohesion which will bring about the development that we are looking for. I don't know if you understand. So, for instance, when the MPP won in 2016, the people who were manning the toll booths, they were all sacked. In fact, they were beating out. Yeah. People were beating. They were beating out. Leave. No. I don't think that is good, because then what it means is that in the event that the NDC also wins the next election, and it continues like that. Maybe we need to begin to.
It was done in 2008.
No, it was.
No, you know what I'm saying.
It is recycled.
And when a taxi driver misbehaves in traffic, you tell the corrector, I want to know. It's crazy.
So that is the so what? If your party is in government, you should be fighting.
You issued that statement. Why are you unhappy?
Yeah, we are unhappy because in the first place, Ghana's foreign policy since our independence has been one of non-alignment and not belonging to any military bloc or any power bloc for that matter. So it is by allowing the March 19th war games to start and for the ceremony to happen on our soil was against our long-cherished foreign policy and principle of not belonging to any military bloc.
Right.
That's one. Number two, we have to see through these war games. Because these naval games is to secure the sea lanes of the Gulf of Guinea.
Okay.
And why? It's because of the oil resources that Côte d'Ivoire has, that Ghana has, that Nigeria has, that Gabon has, that Angola has, the fishing resources that Senegal has, that Namibia have. All these kind of resources, and of course, the internal resources like uranium in Niger. Now there are French troops stationed in Niger and American troops. The last time some Americans were killed by what we called so-called Islamic terrorist groups, but which others might see as opposition groups who are armed there because they believe that they must overthrow the state, whether it is in Niger, whether it's in Mali. In Mali, there's a problem of the Tuaregs who are being oppressed. You understand?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
by the majority blacks. You understand? Although the Tuaregs are light-skinned Berbers. You understand? And now the fight has come into Burkina Faso. And so the Americans and NATO have made it as an excuse to create all sorts of bases. AFRICOM is one such military thing. And in Ghana here, they are now using Bunduase, our military camp on the Aflao Road. They are now using Achiase, the jungle warfare school.
Really?
These have been open to them. And now our naval facilities have been open to them. And Terminal 1
The Terminal 1, yeah.
in Kotoka International Airport has exclusively been given to them. And even a national frequency, a frequency which we take from Radio Gold and others, has been given to them for free. Why? You understand? Why? The question is why? It's a foreign power. They have a foreign interest. We are also a power. We're a sovereign country. We must also have our interest. Do we protect our interests? Do we understand and know our interests vis-a-vis other powers? You understand? The oil is for us. We should be protecting it. It's not the Americans who should come and protect it. Or is it because ExxonMobil is here taking 85% of the oil away? That is why they are coming here. Before we discovered oil, were there troops here? Before we became the largest gold exporter from Africa, were there troops coming here? We ought to be very careful because they become the magnet for insurgents to target our country.
In all of these conversations, are people informed about the possible alliances between nations, between, for instance, our country and the United States of America or NATO or whatnot? Are people informed? They are aware. It goes to Parliament.
Yes, it went to Parliament. The military.
I remember the bro.
I remember the military base, and it became a topical issue.
Yeah. No, you can't hide and do anything.
But is it as a result of the initial arrangement with them, which is giving birth to some of these things? For instance, the naval.
The naval is not only Ghana.
It's across what the West African
across
sub-region.
the Gulf of Guinea countries.
Okay.
And the West Coast.
Yeah.
When I say the West Coast, from Senegal right out to Namibia.
Yeah.
Plus some inland countries.
Right.
They are all part of these war games. And these are naval games. So it's all those who border the Atlantic who are taking part in these war games. Of course, let's be very frank.
This is not the first time.
For the war games, this is the first time.
This is the first time. Okay.
Yes. But there have been other exercises on the AFRICOM.
Yes,
that which has been going on,
there.
Which has been going, especially since the Vice President Dick Cheney issued his infamous report on the fact that the Americans will be getting a lot of their oil resources from Africa, from the Gulf of Guinea. Why? Because Persian Gulf is a bottleneck. The Straits of Hormuz, Iran can close it at any time. That's why they've not invaded Iran. And if he closes it,
trouble.
No oil. And all the industries in the West will come down. There'll be mass unemployment and there'll be social upheavals. So they are
thinking about their people.
Of course, they are thinking about their interests.
So, and that's one thing about their foreign policies. Their foreign policies is to extort from Africa in the interest of their people.
Well, I mean, they have come here, they are mining, they are drilling, and they want to protect their multinationals and protect the sea lanes to their country.
And you know, as we describe the chieftaincy system, they are helping them steal from the people.
Well, the multinationals
are helping them steal from the people.
Well, the presidents also want to keep their power.
That's the point.
And so they also acquiesce.
Yeah. So it's like the chieftaincy system we described, which was involved in the slave trade and all that. They are selling us, but we don't even know what guys are. Would you let me come to you, sir? On this subject matter.
But it's like you have concluded.
No, I'm not concluding. I said it is like.
He said they are selling that.
No, but Mujib, look, all these agreements or arrangements that have been entered into on behalf of the people, I'm telling you that if you took it to the Ghanaian people, they would have their own reservations about it, particularly when they know that the rippling effect of such agreements will be an attack on the citizens of Ghana.
But you can't fault the ordinary Ghanaian people because Parliament is the representative of the people. So Parliament does approval or rejection on behalf of the people of Ghana. Is that not it? Well, everybody belongs to a constituency and everybody have a member of Parliament. So they congregate.
Reject the parliamentarians.
Mr. Idegu, is he less tread cautiously? Is he people still are wearing their political jackets very high. Kwame, when I read the story and I realized that it is coming from Socialist Forum of Ghana, I said, wow, because I don't expect anything different from their position now, because, you know, they are anti-America.
No. We are not anti, we are Ghanaians, we're African.
No, that has been the, but I know the history. I know the relationship, because you are Kwame Nkrumah, and I know the relationship between that time and that of the Americans, and your position then. But you have never seen anything, even though there has been many cooperations between Ghana and other countries, Ghana and America, on different sheets in terms of advancing democracy, improving the economic situation in this country, and even improving our defense system in this country. But when this issue of this military cooperation came, we have seen the stance of the CPP or the CPP elements in this country, and the largest opposition party in Ghana, NDC, are vehemently against that. And meanwhile, this is not, that is why I intentionally ask you, is it a new thing? Is it the first time in our history that this is happening? How we are getting? Mr. Unoku, the world now is a global village. You see, no country can exist alone. You see, there are certain, we all interdepend. We need certain things from them, they also need certain things from them. Even in education, people exchange, we have exchange programs. You see Ghanaians going to France, and France people or Cubans coming to Ghana, or we are also going there. And this has been the practice. But it's not exceptional. The military is not exceptional. It's not. Is it exceptional?
It is exceptional.
So we don't want. But
we don't want their military.
But we have since we started today's program, we have been candid and fair to ourselves. Mr. Unoku, when it comes to the military defense system, America is superior. They are superior. So
they are superior to what?
And they are superior, but they have a very well-established defense system in the world, and you know they have demonstrated it time and again.
They can destroy the world.
They can destroy. They can rebuild. They can do anything.
You can take Russia too can destroy the world.
It doesn't.
Why don't we go and bring Russia?
You see.
Or go and bring the Chinese.
And you were now going underground and trying to bring your non-alliance. Meanwhile, that was only a theory, but practically you were allied. So Kwame, I really don't see anything wrong. For instance, Ghana, Nigeria coming into agreement in the area of military. Why should let's look at how it's going to benefit. What benefits are we going to drive from that cooperation we are entering to? That is what I think that we should be asking ourselves.
Okay.
But the fact that is the name America, some people don't even read the content.
Thank you very much.
Anything America, they are against.
Thank you very much.
Anything Iraq, they are for it. Anything Russia, they are for it.
Let me give me 1 minute to rebut him.
Okay.
It was the CPP government who signed the largest American free direct is it FDI?
In this foreign direct investment.
That's VALCO. And America backed us in building Akusobo Dam. It was a CPP government. It wasn't any other government. The only other government which has even gotten foreign money for a big project was the Kufuor arrangements with the Chinese, which we are still paying with cocoa. So it is not true that when you mention America, we are against America. Angela Davis is my heroine. You understand? Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all those people, they inspire us. And the Americans. And the Americans to the core. W.B. Du Bois. You understand? The Americans to the core.
But the progressive American.
The ancestors built America.
Not two ways about it.
But they are progressive American.
So I reject.
I think the distinction should be progressive Americans and non-progressive Americans. let's hear you, sir. And certainly you know that if it is from SMG, Delali will support.
No, you see, I know all of them.
I'm not crippling you.
What are things that people and analyze is socialist and say, wow.
You see, Kwame, I listened to Mujib, and for me, for a moment, I was a bit surprised. I mean, the point is this. We've heard consistently that America have no friend or enemy, but they always have an interest.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a fact that the only reason why America all of a sudden have developed interest when it comes to siting of military base and within our jurisdiction basically means that there's an interest more to it than what Mujib is espousing. It basically might not be what they want us to believe. But what is a bit quite interesting is as to whether Mujib agreed to the fact that America should have access to our frequency and whether indeed Ghana can have the same access in America. That is some of the pertinent questions that we should be asking ourselves. I mean, like Mujib alluded to, this thing, you know, it started some time ago when the NPP took over, and it led to a series of demonstrations. Uncle Kwesi Pratt and Kwame, I mean, they staged a lot of demonstration. You know, we as NDC at that time, we protested vehemently. I mean, after having averted our mind to the details of the agreement. I mean, even some portion of the agreement read that in the event that an American military on the soil of Ghana commit even a crime, he will not be subject to the laws of the Republic of Ghana, but he will be subject to the laws of the United States of America. And for me, these are some of the things that raises a lot of eyebrow, because to the extent that if I go to America and commit a crime, I will not be subject to the laws of the Republic of Ghana. I'll be treated and dealt with according to the laws of the United States of America. So these are some of the details or some of the specific relative to the agreement that will raises a lot of issues, even to the extent that in the course of the operation, and they destroy any property or whatsoever, the cost will be borne by the government of the Republic of Ghana. I mean, these are some things that became an issue. But let's also admit that
I don't intend to interject. Yeah. But you see, we are doing intellectual discussions.
Yeah.
Let's agree that there are certain situations that certain decisions, certain issues can be waived on certain individual depending on the situations. Kwame, it is not by anything that diplomats here who are in Ghana or Ghana diplomats are in other countries treated differently when it comes to certain issues. But those are international norms and rules. So if we are entering into an agreement of cooperation, and there has been one or two things that you need to wait, I don't see.
You see, the point is this: America entered into that agreement, having the interest of America in mind.
As Ghana, we don't have our interest.
Hold on. Because the point is the point is this: the only reason why Americans who agreed to an agreement and said, even if any member or any citizens of America commit a crime in Ghana, will be subject to the laws of the United States of America, not Ghana. It's because they are protecting their interest. Why did our leaders, who agreed to that terms, did not also agree to the fact that it should rather be subject to the laws of the Republic of Ghana?
Yeah.
So you see, what we are just saying is this. Now, the issue that has been raised is the fact that the Americans' presence in our soil, in our jurisdiction,
let's allow him.
Obviously makes us a target when it comes to this insurgency, when it comes to this Islamic extremism and what have you. And we have seen it in other jurisdictions.
Kenya is an example.
We have seen it. Al-Shabaab and what have you. We have seen it in other jurisdictions. So if Ghanaians are raising the red flag relative to the potential danger that this agreement or that the presence of American military on our soil will bring to the good people of this country, I think it's a legitimate concern. I mean, this has nothing to do with the fact that, okay, we are anti-America or this and this and that. I don't think that the good people of America, knowing very well that even entering into an agreement with a certain country will make them vulnerable, they were even allowed to wait. Yeah. I don't think, and the question is the timing.
Yeah.
The timing of this relocation or this sighting of American military base and what have you.
questionable.
Well, I've read a statement, and I think the Socialist Forum of Ghana have, meticulously given reason why they think that America have sighted military base in certain specific countries with certain, which has been
proximity.
Certain natural resources. They've cited an instance of uranium, gold, and what have you. Why is it that the other African countries
They should go there.
who are lacking these resources or this natural, what we call material, they've not cited what do you call it?
Right.
This military base or what have you.
Right. Thank you.
So I think these are legitimate
Thank you.
concerns, and I believe that if for anything at all, we should be applauding what they call the social forums of Ghana for standing up to defend the interests of Ghana.
The sovereignty.
The sovereignty of Ghana. I think Muji should be applauded and rather than...
Muji, applaud. Muji, applaud. Muji, applaud. Anyway, so two very critical issues that we get out of here. One has to do with the Rasta boy who was refused admission to your school. And I told you before the start of the show that I have my own reservations about that. And then we will discuss Domelovo, the almighty Domelovo, and the response emanating from the quarters of the president in respect of the back and forth, handing over, etc., etc. Now, Achimota, your school, or is it Achimota or Achimota? This gentleman was refused admission on the basis of the fact that he was carrying dreadlocks. I mean, it became a topical issue. My personal, harmless position is that he is only a Rastaman because of what? An indoctrination, correct? Because he's still a young boy who, in my estimation, didn't make the choice for himself as to whether or not he wants to be a Rastaman, a Christian, or a Muslim. I have a general problem with religious indoctrinations, personally. The fact that, we give birth to somebody, he's into a Muslim family, and then automatically the child must become a Muslim, even though when they grow up they may decide to be something else, right? That choice is not theirs to make. The fact that if we born somebody into a Christian home, automatically the person must become a Christian. A traditional home, automatically the person, a Rastafarian home, the person must automatically become a Rastafarian. So I'm saying that on the basis of that choice to become a Rasta man, right, was not a choice that was made by the gentleman to start with. That is one. Two, that every institution has its own rules and regulations. Yes, we say freedom of education, but freedom of education comes with a certain level of responsibility. Yes, we say freedom of expression is met at the doorstep of defamation. So, yes, it's free, but it has attending laws or rules and regulations that must follow same. So, this whole brouhaha, do you think that the GES should have directed Achimota from admitting, from not admitting the gentleman? And if the gentleman were to be a lady, would the narrative have been the same?
Well, yes, it's true. It's my alma mater. I'm very proud of my alma mater.
Oh, as for Motown people, you need to know Accra people.
Yes, but I think that in this case they got it wrong because I believe in diversity. And the Constitution also tells us that our country is a secular country. When you go to school, you have to go to church. Till you are 18 years old, your parents decide for you certain things. Yes, you are born in a Christian home. At the age of 18, you can decide not to be a Christian. You can decide to be a Muslim. And we have to be very careful and understand that even if you're a child, there are certain things, certain decisions you can make, and there are certain decisions you can't make because of lack of information, lack of awareness, the environment, everything. And so you depend on your parents to make it for you. But when you become an adult at 18, you can decide that I'm cutting off my dreadlocks. For me, the question is that if the boy had impese, he was a fetish child, and he qualified, would he be told to go and cut it off? What about the girls who are allowed to wear the hijab?
Yeah.
When I went to school, when I went to primary school and secondary school, I had some Pakistani mates. And some of them were Sikhs. And from India, they were Sikhs. And they put on the turban. And they were allowed to put on the turban. You understand? Of course, I agree that we are not allowed to put on the beard like in the army, etc., etc. But for me, this brouhaha was not necessary. You understand?
So if
white people, I was arguing on my second alma mater, Augustine's platform, that I had a classmate, a lady from Holland, whose father was a lecturer in history in the University of Ghana. She wore long hair. She's a Caucasian. I was going to tell her to cut off her hair.
But in some schools, they ask them to cut their hair off.
Why?
Infant girls, for instance.
When I went to secondary school in the 70s, I had an afro. Nobody told me I had my afro. No afro. Leaving your hair.
But now can you go to Achimota without?
No. I mean, what's the big deal about it?
Yeah, but
the only thing is that that time you'll be having lice.
Yeah.
Lice in your hair.
Yeah.
You understand? And we have to use the hot comb to comb it. No,
the metal one.
We use the hot comb to comb it so that it can kill the lice and those kind of things. So unless you are saying that to contaminate the other, so we should cut it. That's health reason. So you must give those kind of reasons. But simply because the guy is a friend and Rastafarian, so what? Is it your concern?
Kwame, this issue, I have been looking at it. I don't know where I belong. But Kwame, I think that this is not the first time like schools have taken on people from maybe their hairstyle. But I think that this one has just brought it to the limelight, and I think that the decision has been taken because per the instruction from the Ghana Education Service, the guy should be admitted. But Kwame, I want to look at it this way. We have the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana that govern every aspect of our life and govern all the institutions. And Kwame, all these institutions also have their rules and regulations that conform with the principles of the Constitution. I think that is where the administrative issues, laws come in, even when there are infringement, when your rights have been abused internally, even Pan-Africa, and you go to court, what the decision the court will take, instruction or directing Pan-Africa to do the right thing by using the internal procedures and the rules and regulations. But I listened to, when I was coming here, I was listening to City FM. And it's like the past Director General, there were instances like this in 2015 when 2 females were denied to write exams based on the hijab they were wearing. And I think that GS came and directed those institutions to bear the cost of those 3 girls, student girls, writing WASI exams. I think they made a statement that it's only to assist the students to keep their hair clean. But other than that, there's no any law that is banning them. If that is actually the position of the Ghana Education Service, and I think that then the child has a case, and what the decision recently they have taken is proper in place. But I think that these schools, they have to, because we are getting to a point that we can't continue this way. So now a lot of people don't understand whether the school is right or the authorities are right. So, but Kwame, moving forward, we need to know how we are able to, how our hairstyle and all those things has to be, which is acceptable when you go to secondary schools and all those things, to put all these matters to rest. But I want to agree, because no law, when you go to Article 11 of the Constitution,
right,
and in terms of how the laws of Ghana are arranged, I think the Constitution is the supreme. So if the fundamental human rights of the people, I don't know where you are coming from. So maybe you can go, but eventually you'll be submerged, because the law is affording the opportunity. But I think that this is also an opportunity. Then I asked a friend a question yesterday.
Why don't you
So the hijab is the right of our Muslim sister.
Yeah.
But why were they being prevented in other places?
Yeah.
Is it that we were very slow in making noise?
It became a big issue.
I know. So, and I think that then
Darling, briefly.
so now, Kwame, it is true now, upholding to the principles of human rights.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
now I think that we'll take it off.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Yes.
Mr. Hidegu, it's not your
Kwame, for me, I think some of the fundamental questions we have to ask ourselves. You see, as a country, sometimes we look at what is outside and what is inside.
Yeah.
And I can bet you that the only reason why, I mean, these students were denied initial access to Achimota Secondary School might not necessarily be about their competence. You know, sometimes people have a way of stereotyping.
Yeah.
Or that when you see Rasta men outside there, they are noted for certain kind of what do you call
smoke
it?
weed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that might be the basis. Allegedly.
That's why I said that.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
That the perception that they smoke
Yes.
weed.
So it's for me. I think it's more of a perception than reality. That okay, when people are seen to have this kind of a hairstyle, these are some of the things that we are mostly associated them with and what have you. But what we've forgotten about it is that, Kwame, we have elders of a church, pastors of a church. The crime that they've committed is and you'll be surprised that there are 2 students that the school will be interested to admit a student because of the way the hair look like. And you'll be surprised that at the end of the day, that student that the school might have admit
will be worse
than a student having what do you call it?
It's true.
So I think it happens even when you go to even our job places. There are instances people look at people and even say, oh, this person on the basis of this appearance, I will admit this person. Even to even look at even the because this person is a member of maybe the Church of Pentecost. Names. You understand? So I think we've gotten to a point, like Mujid alluded to. I mean, you are lawyers. I believe in the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, which is the supreme. You cannot discriminate against somebody on the basis of hairstyle, color, names, and what have you not. And no law will be elevated above the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. I believe even when I listen to the student, even on the basis of even how they answer certain questions, their expression, I have no any inhibition whatsoever. I mean, one of them had aggregate 6. I mean, if for nothing at all, he has distinguished himself on the basis of the requirement that it takes somebody to be admitted into Achimota Secondary School. I believe that this has also raised a lot of debate relative to the hijab that Mujid and Mr. Henoku were talking about. And yesterday I saw one of your brothers within the media fraternity, what do you call it, Umaru Sanda, posted it on his Facebook wall and said now that the issue about their hairstyle has been settled, that they've been allowed to go to school, then why don't they allow what do you call it, our Islamic what do you call it?
But hijab is allowed.
It's allowed. Very good.
Yeah.
So the point is that I think that one, because of what has happened, I mean, a lot of people will be monitoring these 2 young guys. Let's see what the outcome will be relative to.
There are 2 different Rasta guys.
Yeah. And you know one of them.
School.
You know one of them is triplet.
I see.
The other 2, what do you call twin? What do you call brother and a sister? They are at St. John's Grammar Secondary School. So once St. John's have admitted what do you call his other twin sister and a brother, I mean, we think that we have to be progressive as a country. I mean, we have to embrace all cultures. I mean, that is what is important. But at the end of the day, what really matters is whether this student, who knows, he might become even the next scientist, I mean, in this country to discover something that will be
to fly to
so
space.
I think what is important is
They must be allowed.
they must be allowed.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I can't discuss the well because my time is up. Yeah, but thank you. He is just a mischievous guy. Thank you, Mr. Seneku, for your time this morning. Thank you, Mujib Rahman, for your time, and thank you to you, Delali Sewapo, certainly for your time. Thank you to the viewers for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. My name is Kwame Owusu Danso. Unfortunately, we couldn't discuss the last issue. Hopefully, we'll get an opportunity to discuss that tomorrow. But I believe that today's morning show has been very inspirational and very educative as well. Let's continue to do our little for the development of our dear nation, Ghana. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.
Today, we can't trust sources of water anymore. Confidence is gone.